Look, I'm going to say something that probably won't get me invited to the next expat meetup. But I've been sitting with this for 3 years now, and I can't stay quiet anymore. I'm going to tell you the two biggest lies that YouTube is selling you about Colombia. And I'm not being dramatic, I'm being precise. These aren't small exaggerations or matters of perspective or subjective opinions where people just have different experiences. These are flat-out claims that send people on planes with completely unrealistic expectations. And then they land here and real life doesn't match the video. Real people with real savings and real hopes get on planes based on these videos, and they arrive to find that the math doesn't work and the romantic promises are empty. I've watched dozens of these videos, maybe over 100 at this point. I've read hundreds of comments from people who are either seriously considering the move or have already made it and are struggling to make ends meet or feeling lonely and deceived. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that there's a massive gap between what's being presented on camera for views and engagement and what's actually true on the ground, what actually is real life for someone living here and not filming a vacation or making money from sponsorships. My name is Walt Hendricks. I'm 70 years old. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I taught high school history for 38 years at Worthington High School. Spent my entire career teaching teenagers how to think critically and examine sources carefully, how to distinguish between reliable information and propaganda. That background actually serves me pretty well now because I'm very attuned to when somebody is selling me a story that doesn't add up, when the numbers don't work, when something too good to be true is probably exactly that. And I've been living in Medellin, Colombia for about 3 years now. I live alone in my 2-bedroom apartment in Laureles. My kids are back in the States. And yes, I'm very happy here. But I'm happy here because I went in with my eyes open, and I'm not buying what the highlight reel merchants are selling. I'm not pretending this place is something it's not, or that I've found some magical answer to life's problems. I'm just living here day to day, making it work based on reality instead of fantasy. The two things I'm talking about are the cost of living and the dating scene. And before you click away thinking this is going to be some bitter old guy rant, it's not. I'm not bitter. I'm not resentful. I'm not angry. I genuinely enjoy this country. I have a good life here. I've made friends here. Real friends. I've learned the language better than I thought I would when I first arrived. I've discovered neighborhoods and restaurants and rhythms of life and ways of being that are different from what I knew in the States. And I appreciate that deeply. I appreciate the way people greet each other here, the way family is important, the way people spend time together. I appreciate the food, the weather, the mountains surrounding the city, the way people move through the day without the constant rushing and stress I remember from Ohio. But I'm also not going to sit around and pretend that a single person can comfortably live here on $800 a month if they want to do it well. And I'm not going to pretend that women are just lining up to hold your hand and be your girlfriend because you showed up with a foreign passport and some savings. That's nonsense. And the people selling you that nonsense are doing you a real disservice. They're setting you up for disappointment. Let me start with the cost of living, because this is where the gap between YouTube fantasy and actual reality is widest. This is the one that really bothers me because it's so foundational to the entire decision-making process. You're considering uprooting your life. You're thinking about moving to another country permanently. You're weighing decades of stability against the promise of paradise. The cost of living is probably the #1 factor in your decision. And if the information you're getting is fundamentally wrong, then your entire decision-making process is compromised. You're building your hopes on a foundation of sand. When I first arrived in Medellin, I was actually shocked by how expensive some things were. I'd done research. I thought I was prepared. But standing in a supermarket looking at the price of butter or cheese or other imported goods that I thought would be cheap, that was eye-opening. I remember going to a restaurant in El Poblado thinking I'd get a cheap meal, and the bill was $40 for 2 people with drinks. That's not cheap. That's average American restaurant pricing. And that was after I'd been warned by other expats. I remember being surprised by how much rent actually was for a decent place. I remember the first time I paid for health care and seeing how much private insurance cost. I remember all these little moments where the reality didn't match the fantasy I'd been told. But because I'd already done my homework and expected this, I wasn't devastated by it. I just adjusted my expectations and moved forward. I pay $650 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment in Laureles. Laureles is a solid neighborhood, not flashy like El Poblado, which is where a lot of the Instagram tourists hang out and where nightlife happens, and the bars are expensive, and the rents are double or triple what they should be for what you're getting. That's actually where you see the YouTube videos being filmed, by the way. Those guys are in El Poblado, paying for the nice restaurants and nice places to film, or they're getting everything for free because they're making money from the platform. Not far from the wealthier areas like Envigado, where some of the more affluent Colombians live in gated communities behind walls. Laureles is just a genuine residential neighborhood where Colombian families live and work and send their kids to school. You see actual Colombian life here. There are actual Colombians here, not just tourists and expats looking for adventure or escape. My apartment is comfortable. It has good light from 2 big windows, a small balcony where I can sit with my coffee in the morning and watch people going to work. Decent appliances that actually work. A refrigerator, a stove, a washing machine that doesn't flood the apartment. It's in a building with security and a doorman who knows everyone who lives there. His name is Roberto. We chat most mornings. He'll ask about my day. He'll tell me about his family. He'll mention what's going on in the building. It's that kind of place. It's not a palace. It's not a mansion. It's a normal, respectable place where a person can live with dignity and some measure of community and connection to the people around them. And $650 a month is actually a fair price for what I get. Some people will tell you they're paying $400. Maybe they are. Maybe their building is older, or the neighborhood is less established, or they're living in some semi-rural area outside the city proper. That's fine. But if you want to live where I live, in Laureles, in Medellin, in a neighborhood with infrastructure and safety and proximity to actual things, with a building with security, $650 is not an outlier. It's accurate. It's realistic. It's what you should budget for if you want to live decently. But here's where the YouTube math falls apart completely. People see that rent number and build their entire budget around it. They say, okay, so I've got $650 for rent. That leaves me with $350 more a month to live like a king. No, it doesn't work that way. That's where they're lying to you. Or more accurately, that's where they're not thinking clearly about what a life actually costs. They're doing the math like they're building a budget for a backpacker traveling through South America for 3 months. Not for a grown adult who wants to maintain some dignity and quality of life. And I get it. The fantasy is appealing. It's seductive. It says you can finally escape, finally find paradise, finally live in a place where your money goes further than it ever will at home. But it's not real. And when you land here, you figure that out real quick. Let me walk you through a month. Any month. This month, actually. I'm going to break down every category of spending, and I'm going to be honest about every single number. This is the real budget for a real person living a real life here. Rent, $650. That's locked in. That doesn't change month to month. Now utilities, electricity, water, internet. My electricity runs about $40 a month. It's fairly stable year-round since the temperature here hovers around 22 to 24 degrees Celsius pretty much every day. It's the city of eternal spring, which is wonderful, but it also means your air conditioning isn't running full blast in summer like it would back in Ohio. You're not sweating through your clothes and running the AC at midnight. You're not paying for heat in winter because you're not freezing. Water is cheap, maybe $6 a month. Internet, which I actually use reliably for streaming Netflix and video calls back home with my kids, runs about $25 a month for decent speed that doesn't constantly buffer. That's about $70 a month total for utilities. Rent plus utilities, $720. Food. This is where people really get creative with their math, and it's where the YouTube videos diverge most dramatically from reality. They say, oh, you can live on $100 a month eating at street vendors and markets. Technically, sure. If you want to eat empanadas and arepas and nothing else for every single meal, for every single day of every single month, you can hit that number. I'll give them that. And listen, those foods are delicious. I genuinely love them. I'm not trying to dismiss Colombian cuisine. Bandeja paisa, which is this massive, beautiful plate from Antioquia with beans and rice and meat and a fried egg and avocado and fresh fruit on the side and everything you can imagine, is one of my favorite meals, and it costs about $4 when you eat it at a local place. You can get really good arepas, the cornmeal cakes that Colombians eat for breakfast and lunch and snacks, for $1.50. Tinto, this little black coffee that's basically Cuban coffee but Colombian, served in the morning or afternoon in a tiny cup that's maybe 2 ounces, is 30 cents. Those are real prices. That math adds up if you're willing to eat the same things over and over. But I'm a 70-year-old man from Ohio. I didn't move to Colombia to eat the same 3 things every single day for the rest of my life. I want some variety. I want to cook at home sometimes and actually have ingredients that don't cost me a fortune or that feel exotic or that I actually enjoy eating. I want to eat fresh fruits, and there's amazing fresh fruit here. Mangoes and papayas and avocados and pineapples that taste like nothing you've had in the United States. And here's the thing that nobody talks about, and this is crucial because it changes everything about your budget. Imported goods cost 3 to 4 times what they cost in the United States. I went to my local grocery store, not some fancy place catering to tourists, just a normal Éxito or Carrefour, where Colombian families shop every day, and I found a block of Irish butter for $8. $8! In Columbus, butter is maybe $4. French cheese is $15 for a small block. I can buy Colombian cheese much cheaper, and it's actually good cheese, not some weird substitute. But if I want the imported stuff, if I want some variety in my diet that goes beyond what's immediately available here, I'm paying significantly more. So when I'm building a grocery budget, I can't just multiply American prices by 0.3 or something and expect it to work. I have to think about what I actually want to eat, what I need to feel satisfied, what makes my life feel like a life and not like some kind of deprivation experiment. I spend about $350 a month on groceries. Some months it's less, some months it's more, if I'm stocking up on imported items I like. But that's a solid average. I'm cooking at home most of the time, breakfast, lunch sometimes, dinner regularly. But I'm also buying a mix of Colombian and imported foods. I'm not living in deprivation. I'm eating well. I'm eating better than I ate in Columbus, actually, because the produce is fresher and more abundant and cheaper if you buy local. Groceries, $350. Running total so far, over $1,000 just for rent, utilities, and food. Now let's talk about eating out. You know what's interesting about Colombia? Despite what the YouTube videos suggest, the social life here is tied to going out. Colombians don't sit at home a lot. They don't have a culture of staying in and watching TV. They go to cafes, and there are cafes everywhere in Medellin. They go to restaurants. They gather in public spaces. They're outdoors. And if you want to have any kind of social presence or any kind of dating life, or just any kind of human interaction beyond your immediate neighbors, you're eating out. A nice dinner at a decent restaurant in Medellin might run you $20 to $30 per person, and that includes alcohol. That might sound cheap compared to the United States, but it's not a one-time thing. You're probably doing this at least twice a week if you're socially engaged, maybe 3 times. That's another $150 to $200 a month, easy. And that's assuming you're not going to nicer restaurants or doing special things. That's just baseline social eating out. Healthcare. Here's another place where the YouTube videos get very vague, and it bothers me. They'll say something like, healthcare is cheap in Colombia, without actually explaining what that means or what you're actually getting. Colombia does have a good healthcare system compared to a lot of countries in the region, better than a lot of places. But if you want consistent, reliable care that doesn't require you to wait in a clinic for 6 hours with 50 other people, if you want to see a private doctor who speaks English, if you want prescriptions filled without a hassle, you're getting private insurance. You're not depending on the public system. I spend about $80 a month on private health insurance. That's actually quite reasonable. Add that to occasional doctor visits. I've had a couple of dental cleanings, 1 visit for a respiratory thing that was going around, some blood work to monitor cholesterol, and medications, and I'm spending roughly $150 a month on health care. That's not optional. That's essential. That's health. That's peace of mind. Phone and SIM card. $50 a month for decent mobile service. Not the cheapest possible plan, but something that actually works, that has data, that doesn't drop calls constantly. Clothing, personal care items, soap, shampoo, deodorant, laundry detergent, all the stuff you buy regularly. $100 a month is reasonable. Sometimes more if you need new clothes, sometimes less, but on average about $100. Now we're at roughly $1,900 a month just for basic living. Let me say that again because it's important. $1,900 a month. That's rent, utilities, food, eating out, healthcare, phone, and personal care. That's the foundation. That's the baseline budget that you actually need to live like a human being, not like a monk in a monastery. That's not extravagant. That's not luxurious. That's normal. That's the budget for a decent life in a decent neighborhood. And here's the thing that really bothers me about the YouTube videos. They show you someone eating at a cheap restaurant, and they say, wow, look how cheap food is. And then they build their whole narrative around that. But they're not showing you the totality of life. They're showing you the highlight reel. They're showing you the meal that costs $2, but they're not showing you the internet bill or the healthcare costs or the rent or the fact that sometimes you want to eat somewhere nice or go somewhere or do something that costs money. But I haven't mentioned travel yet. Colombia is a country you probably want to see. The coffee region, which is absolutely stunning, with mountains and clouds and coffee plantations, where you can learn about how the whole industry works and taste fresh coffee that tastes nothing like what you get at home. The Caribbean coast, with its beaches and colonial towns like Cartagena, where you can walk around old forts and eat fresh seafood and see a completely different part of the country. The Amazon, if you're adventurous and want to see that part of the world. I take 1 or 2 trips within Colombia every year, and I'm not backpacking or taking 10-hour bus rides with 50 other tourists. I'm flying between cities, staying in decent hotels, eating at restaurants, enjoying myself. Over the course of a year, I probably spend another $800 on internal travel. That's less than $100 a month on average, but it's real money that adds up over the course of a year. It's the difference between budget tourism and actually living a life. I also fly home to see my kids, probably once a year or once every 2 years. That's not negotiable for me. I have family in the States and I want to see them, and they want to see me. A decent flight from Medellin to the United States runs about $600 to $1,000, depending on when you book and how far in advance you plan. That's real money coming out of your budget. And when you're there, you have expenses, a rental car, hotels, food. That's another couple $1,000 a year probably. Then there's internet upgrades for better service, occasional software subscriptions, books, entertainment, hobbies. There's the random thing that breaks. My refrigerator needed repair last year. Cost me a couple $100. My laptop needed a new hard drive. My apartment building had to replace some plumbing, and there was an assessment. There are things like getting your residency visa, which costs money and takes time. Keeping your passport up to date and renewed. Occasional trips back to the United States for banking or legal stuff, or just to handle things that can't be handled remotely. Gifts you want to send back home for family birthdays or holidays. You're building a life from scratch in a place where you don't have decades of relationships and understanding and systems already in place. There's overhead to that. There's friction. There's cost. By the time you add in a genuine, realistic monthly budget for a person living as a grown adult in Medellin with some semblance of comfort and dignity and actual human connection, you're looking at $1,900 to $2,200 a month. And that's being somewhat conservative. If you want to live better, travel more, eat out more frequently, take more trips within Colombia, have hobbies, or have more margin for error in your budget, you're looking at $2,500 to $3,000 a month. That's the real number. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not saying this to discourage you. The YouTube videos are out there saying you can do this on $800 a month, and that's just not true if you want to do it well. If you want to do it without making yourself miserable. You could live on $800. You could. But your life would be severely limited. You'd be stressed. You'd be isolated. You'd be cutting corners constantly. The real story, the honest story that nobody wants to sell you because it doesn't fit the narrative, is that if you're a retiree coming to Colombia with a decent pension or savings, you can have a genuinely good life. A really good life. Better than you'd have in many parts of the United States on the same money. Better than you'd have in other countries. The value is real. The opportunity is real. But you need to be realistic about the numbers. You need to budget properly. You need to understand that you're not going to live like a king on a pauper's budget, no matter what the YouTube videos tell you. I came here with my eyes open about the cost. I budgeted for it properly before I came. I saved for it. I had conversations with real people who actually lived here and were willing to tell me the truth, not just the romantic parts. I didn't come with the illusion that I'd found some secret paradise where life costs nothing and you can live like royalty on pocket change. I did the math. I looked at real numbers. I created spreadsheets. I talked to real people, not influencers, not people trying to sell me something, not YouTube personalities, but regular expats who had been here for years. People who had lived through the reality, not just filmed the vacation. People who were willing to have hard conversations about what things actually cost. And because I did that foundational research, I'm not surprised or disappointed now. I'm satisfied. I made an informed decision based on facts, and I'm living with the results of that decision. And yes, I'm happy. Not because everything is perfect, but because I'm not chasing a fantasy. I'm living reality. I'm living a life that actually makes sense for who I am and what I want and what I'm willing to do and what I can afford. That's a better foundation for happiness than any YouTube fantasy could ever provide. Now, the second thing that YouTube exaggerates wildly is the dating and the women. I'm going to be careful and thoughtful about this because it's sensitive and it matters. I have genuine respect for Colombian women. I'm not trying to demean them or stereotype them or reduce them to objects. I'm just trying to be accurate about what the reality is when you're an older foreign man trying to date in this country. The claim I hear all the time is, come to Colombia and the women will be all over you. They're warm, they're affectionate, they're attracted to foreign men, and you'll have an incredible time dating. It's one of the most repeated claims on YouTube. And listen, there's something to that. It's not completely false. Colombian women, generally speaking, are warmer and more open and more physically affectionate than what a lot of American men are used to. They make eye contact. They smile. They're less guarded. That's true. But the YouTube narrative takes that cultural truth and distorts it into something that's not accurate. It suggests that you can just arrive and women will be interested in you romantically because you're foreign. That's the distortion. When I first arrived in Medellin 3 years ago, I was alone. My marriage had ended years before I moved. I wasn't here specifically to meet women, but I wasn't opposed to it either. I was 70, I was healthy, I was in a new country, and part of being human is wanting connection and companionship and romance. So I did what a lot of men do when they land in a new place. I got on the dating apps, Tinder, Bumble, a couple of the apps that are popular here locally, and I got matches. Within the first week, I had more matches than I'd ever gotten in Columbus in my entire life. More matches in a week than I'd gotten in years in the United States. Women sending me messages, women starting conversations, women initiating contact. And at first, I thought maybe YouTube was onto something. Maybe there really was something different about Colombian women. Maybe the climate here, the culture, something, made women just more interested in meeting men. But then I actually started talking to these women, and the picture got more complicated. First of all, a huge percentage were significantly younger. And I'm talking 15, 20 years younger than me. I was 70, and I was getting matched with women in their late 40s and early 50s. Now, I wasn't opposed to the age difference, but there was no spark, no attraction. There was no, this is a woman I want to spend time with. There was a clear pattern. These women were very interested in the fact that I was a foreigner with money. In a country where the average salary is $800 to $1,000 a month for a worker, a foreign man with a pension represents financial stability and opportunity. He represents access to things. He represents a better life. I understand it. I'm not angry. I can see the logic. But it's not the romantic fantasy that YouTube sells you. It's not women attracted to you because you're amazing. It's women interested in what you can provide. The women closer to my age, educated and independent, most of them weren't interested in dating a foreign man. They wanted relationships with Colombian men, or they were focused on their careers and their own lives, or they were fine being single and didn't feel like they needed a man to complete them. And I respect that tremendously. That's the kind of woman I'd want to date, honestly. A woman who has her own life and her own money and her own goals, not someone who sees me as a potential ticket to a better life. But those women, by and large, weren't looking for what I had to offer. I did end up in one relationship that lasted a few months. She was 58, Colombian, educated, independent. She worked in business. She had her own apartment, her own life, her own circle of friends. She wasn't looking for someone to take care of her or provide for her. We had genuine chemistry for a while, real attraction, real conversation. I thought it might develop into something significant. I wasn't sure, but there was possibility. But you know what we ran into? Real, deep cultural differences. Not the kind you see in a romantic comedy that get resolved in 90 minutes. Things about family, about time, about expectations, about how we each thought a relationship should function. How often you spend time with family, when major decisions get made, how conflicts get resolved, what commitment actually means, what loyalty looks like, how you show love and affection. Neither of us was wrong. We were just from different cultural contexts, and those contexts don't just disappear because you're attracted to someone. After a few months, it ended, amicably. No drama, no resentment, just a mature recognition that we wanted different things and that we weren't going to be able to bridge that gap. That's the real story of dating in Colombia as a foreign man. It's not bad, it's not tragic, it's just real and complicated and nuanced. It's not the paradise that YouTube sells you. It's not women throwing themselves at you. It's human beings trying to connect across significant cultural divides. Language matters too. I speak Spanish. It's not perfect Spanish. I make mistakes. I don't understand everything people say, but I can have a conversation. I can laugh at jokes. I can ask questions. I can express myself and be understood. Most men coming down here don't. I spent months learning it before I came, and I've continued to study it since I've been here because I think it's important. But a lot of the men coming down here, especially the ones watching YouTube videos about how easy everything is, they don't speak Spanish. They don't speak it at all. They expect to show up and charm women with English and a foreign passport and maybe some cash to spend. And sure, some women will be interested in that. Some younger women, some women who studied English, some women who are excited about foreigners. But most won't. Most women don't speak English fluently. Most women, especially women my age, don't have much exposure to English beyond what they learned in school 30 years ago and have mostly forgotten. So if you can't speak Spanish, you're limiting yourself enormously. You're cutting yourself off from the vast majority of the population. You're putting yourself in a position where you can only interact with the subset of women who specifically want to be with foreign men, which isn't a good place to start a genuine relationship from. And even with Spanish, even with effort, even with genuine interest and attraction, you still have to navigate the cultural complexity. And it's more complex than just the language difference. Ahorita doesn't mean right now. It means sometime in the future when circumstances permit. Someone will tell you ahorita, and you'll be waiting 2 hours or 3 days or a week. And if you're a person who values punctuality and efficiency and everything happening on schedule, like I was coming from Ohio after living my whole life on American time, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to have to adjust your expectations and your personality. Family is central to everything here, not secondary, central. A Colombian woman isn't going to do anything major, certainly not commit to a relationship with a foreign man, without thinking about her family, without considering what her family thinks, without making sure her family is okay with it. And that's not a bad thing. It's actually beautiful. But it's different from American culture, where you might be more focused on your individual choice and less concerned with family approval. There's an economic dynamic at play. You're wealthier. You can pay for nicer things. You can offer things she couldn't otherwise have. You can take her places she wouldn't normally go. That creates a power dynamic in the relationship, whether you want it to or not. You have to be aware of that. You have to be thoughtful about that. You can't ignore it. So by the time you factor in all of that, language, culture, economic awareness, patience with different concepts of time and family and commitment, the fantasy of Colombian women love foreign men becomes a lot less simple. The women are wonderful, that's true. They're often more physically affectionate and emotionally expressive than Western men are used to. That's genuine. But they're also complex human people with their own goals and histories and cultural frameworks. They're not prizes to be won by showing up with a foreign passport. They're not interchangeable. They're not simplified versions of women. YouTube simplifies this into a narrative. It's catchy. It sells videos. It gets comments and shares. But it's not a universal truth. It's not something you can count on. And if you show up with those expectations, expecting women to be interested in you as a romantic prospect just because you arrived with foreign money, you're going to be disappointed. By the time I finished that relationship, I made a decision. I was going to stop treating dating as a goal, something I needed to accomplish. I was going to stop seeing my worth through the lens of whether I could attract a romantic partner. And you know what? My life got better immediately. I focused on friendships. I learned more Spanish. I joined some community activities. I started feeling genuinely at home, not like I was hunting for something to complete me. That's where I am now. I'm 70 years old, living alone in Medellin, and I'm genuinely happy. Not because I found romance, but because I settled into a life that actually works for me. I have friendships. I have a routine. I have a neighborhood where people know me by name. I go to the same cafe and order the same tinto every morning, and the woman who works there smiles when she sees me. That's a kind of connection that's real and valuable and doesn't require a romantic relationship. And honestly, that's worth more than chasing some fantasy that probably wouldn't have worked out anyway. Is there a part of me that wouldn't mind having a partner? Sure, I'm human. I'm not going to pretend I'm some enlightened sage who has transcended the desire for connection or intimacy or partnership. But I'm also not going to chase a fantasy that YouTube has sold me. I'm not going to treat women like they're puzzle pieces that fit into a hole in my life, or like they exist to solve my loneliness problem. That's not fair to them. That's not respectful. Come here with genuine curiosity. Come here with openness. Come here expecting to build a life, a real life, with genuine friendships and routines and meaning and connection. But don't come here expecting women to fix your loneliness, or validate you, or complete you, or make you feel young again. That's not fair to them, and it's not realistic. It's a setup for disappointment on both sides. It's a recipe for resentment. The same goes for the whole move, really. Don't come here expecting Colombia to fix your life or your problems or your unhappiness. If you're miserable in the United States, you're going to find ways to be miserable in Colombia too. Different problems maybe, but problems nonetheless. Don't come here because you're running away. Come here because you're moving towards something. Come here because you want to experience something different. Come here because you're genuinely interested in what life is like in another place. Those are the men who end up happy here. The ones who came with curiosity and openness instead of desperation and fantasy. Let me be clear about something. I'm not telling you that Colombia is bad, or that moving here is a mistake, or that you shouldn't come. I'm not one of those people who moves somewhere and now spends their time trying to keep everyone else out. I'm saying you should come with accurate information. I'm saying come, but come with your eyes open. I came here because I did the research, real research. I looked at the numbers. I talked to people who actually lived here, not influencers, but regular people living regular lives. I visited before I moved. I spent a month here first, just to see if I liked it, to see if this was something I could actually do. And because I did that foundational work, I ended up in a place that works for me. I have a good life, really good. The weather is nice year-round. The food is genuinely delicious and varied. The people are generally warm and friendly. If you have a decent amount of money saved, and I'm talking a few $100,000, or a decent monthly pension that comes to around $2,000 or more, and you're willing to live here thoughtfully and honestly, you can have a great life. Better than you'd have in many parts of the United States on the same money. Better than you'd have in a lot of other countries. But come with accurate expectations about the cost. Don't assume you can live comfortably on $800 a month. That's not realistic for most people unless you're willing to be isolated and miserable. Don't expect women will be lining up. Don't expect that a foreign passport is some kind of magic key that unlocks everything and makes life easy. Those are fantasies. Don't come here to run away from your problems, because you'll just find different problems in a different place. Come because you genuinely want to experience a different culture. Come because the weather appeals to you and you're tired of cold winters. Come because you want an adventure and you're willing to work for it. Come because you're curious about the world. Come because you want to see what life is like in another country. Come for good, honest reasons, and you'll have a good experience. Come because you're chasing a fantasy, and you'll be disappointed. That's just the reality. I've been here 3 years now. I'm staying. I plan to be here for years more, probably for the rest of my life, honestly. I like it here. I like it because I'm realistic about it. I'm not pretending it's something it's not. I'm not chasing illusions. I'm not expecting more than what's reasonable. I'm living actual life in an actual place with actual people. I have friendships. I have a routine. I have neighbors who know my name. I go to the same cafe most mornings. I have a rhythm to my life. I have good days and bad days, just like anyone else anywhere else. I miss things about the United States sometimes. I miss certain foods. I miss some of my old friends. But I don't regret being here. I don't regret the decision to move. The thing is, I made that decision based on real information. I came here eyes open. I didn't come expecting paradise. I didn't come expecting women to throw themselves at me. I didn't come expecting to live like a king on a pauper's budget. I came because the life here appeals to me. The weather, the people, the cost of living relative to the United States, the chance to experience something different. And because I came with those realistic expectations, I'm not disappointed. I'm content. I'm satisfied. I'm happy. That's the truth, at least as I see it. Take it or leave it. I'm not trying to convince you to stay away from Colombia. I'm not trying to keep this secret paradise to myself. I'm just trying to give you accurate information so you can make a good decision. A real decision. A decision that's based on facts rather than fantasy. But before you make a decision about moving to Colombia, before you put down money and uproot your life and leave behind decades of stability based on what you saw in a YouTube video made by someone trying to get views, I'm asking you to do the same thing I did. Do the research. Real research, not just watching videos. Look at real numbers. Do the math. Create a spreadsheet. Talk to real people. People who have been here for years. People who are willing to tell you the hard truths, not just the romantic parts. Not people trying to sell you something. Visit before you move. Spend a month here. Rent an apartment. Live like you're actually going to live. See if you like it. See if you can imagine spending the next 5 years here, or 10 years, or the rest of your life. See if the culture fits you. See if you can learn the language, or at least want to. See if the pace of life suits you. Make an informed decision. Not a decision based on hope and fantasy, but a decision based on facts and reality. That's all I'm asking for. Accuracy, honesty, reality. Because here's the thing. If you come here with accurate expectations, you can have a good life, a really good life. You can eat well, travel within Colombia, have a social life, make friends, experience a different culture, experience different weather, slow down a little bit, get to know people in your neighborhood, develop routines and connections. You can do all of that. But you need to be honest about the costs and the realities. You need to budget properly. You need to understand that this place isn't magic. It's not going to fix your problems or validate you or give you a second chance at youth or make women interested in you just because you showed up with a passport. It's not going to transform you into a different person or solve your loneliness or make you feel young again or solve any of the core issues you were struggling with back home. If anything, you'll find new issues to struggle with here. But there'll be different issues in a different setting, and sometimes that's worth something. It's just a place with good weather and friendly people and good food and lower costs than many parts of the United States. That's already pretty good. That's actually pretty great if you're realistic about it. You don't need to pretend it's more than that, and you don't need to accept claims that it's less than that or that it's impossible. Just be realistic. Just be honest. Just do your homework. And if it still appeals to you after you've done that homework, after you've looked at the real numbers and talked to real people and visited and spent time here, then come on down. We could use more people who are here for the right reasons, not running from something but moving towards something. People who came with eyes open and are living with gratitude instead of disappointment.